Here goes nothing. So far, I have to admit that this year has been one giant roller coaster of emotion. Don't know why on earth I'm wearing my glasses right now. I'm not reading anything special. That's just really weird. Good lord. Gotta love being nervous. I have expectations when coming into making my videos, and that's one of my problems. That's just because I want to have people smile. So my goal is to bring joy to other people's lives instead of causing pain. But regardless of all that's just a random side thought that I just needed to get off my chest. I started out this channel with the idea of being able to regularly upload, and I seriously tried, and it's been really difficult. I just wanted to admit to myself that, one, I can do this. It is very much so possible. I don't want to get emotional, and this is really difficult. I wasn't trying to make this dramatic or make this a sappy story, a sob story, if you will. I'm not trying to make this seem like it's meant to make you cry. It's just supposed to be informative. That's all it is. The things I have to say, they do make it difficult for me to be able to explain without, I guess, shedding a tear. I really apologize if I start crying. It's this year has been rough. It's had its challenges for sure, but nonetheless, it has been both a rewarding as well as a difficult year. That's why I'm making this video, to prove that I can persist even if I can't be consistent. Be persistent. Don't worry about being consistent. That's what matters. I have had a very challenging last few years, but I don't want that to be my defining reality for the year 2020. In fact, I want it to be this. I want it to be the start of a fantastic set of years ahead. And I know that's really difficult to suggest and say, considering the fact that this year we have COVID-19. I'm not trying to trying to suggest that what happened this year with COVID was not a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, of course it is. Death of individuals has always been a bad thing. No matter how tragic this year has seemed to be, I can't help but to really appreciate just how good this year has been. That's why I'm wanting to admit some of the pitfalls along the way, and then explain just how amazing some of this year has been as well. First off, and this is going to sound stupid coming from a middle 20s millennial. Yeah, right? I'm 26 years old, and um, I've never been out on my own. I've always lived with family, and my time in service, I lived in the barracks, and that was about it. I've never lived on my own, and I don't see how that has a giant relevance towards one's ability to be successful. The whole point is we're getting by. It doesn't matter if it's what generation it is, what age you are. If you're getting by, you're surviving. That's what matters. That's what counts. And considering I've lived in some pretty horrible situations, I mean, for shit's sake, I was overseas getting shot at. Those are some difficult situations. About spring this year, my wife and I were kicked out of our family's house. There were plenty of issues between her and I as a couple and our family that we were living with. Good lord, and I keep looking down. I apologize for that so much. I keep looking down because I don't want people to see the pain that I have. I've never viewed sitting down and crying as something that is moving forward. The problem that this was my very first time being on my own, and it was scary. It was very scary. Gosh, I am so nervous, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't take the time to really pay attention to myself or pay attention to why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Now, what I wanted to continue on about was my wife and I were kicked out of our family's house, and um, it was it was a really huge transition because it was the first time either of us have been out on our own to grow as a couple and grow as individuals, just grow as people, become better or worse for who we are. We were just a few weeks away from, well, signing for our first house. It has been a giant challenge to get our first place, and we were so close, so close. I kid you not, we were so close that the week that we moved, when we got into our first apartment, the first Friday of that, we moved, I believe, on a Monday or Tuesday. That Friday, I signed the paperwork to get our loan accepted. We had gotten kicked out a week before I signed those papers. So we were going to be transitioning into finally having our own place, finally being on our own, finally growing, finally having the opportunity to grow. And it felt like we were just, it seemed like it didn't matter. Yeah, through all the hardship that happened from the start of when we went filing for paperwork to the point where we actually did end up putting in our offer to get our home, it seemed like it didn't matter because now I had to shift everything again. This shift was precisely the next topic that was really difficult. In the time frame that we started looking at getting our first place, up until that point, my wife was caring for a loved one who was suffering from Alzheimer's. And now I've seen and heard about Alzheimer's, but living with someone who has it, that took a toll on both of us. In fact, that took a toll on everyone in the house. I can't put anybody at fault for what went down or all the things that occurred in the house. I'm not trying to say that anything absolutely horrible or anything wrong was occurring. It's just the little situations that accumulated that really showed just how difficult it was and how much worse it was becoming. It was really hard. My mental health depleted rapidly. Watching someone that I care about greatly failing at life. And it sucked. Needless to say, it sucked. I wish I could bring up more about that, but I don't believe it's within my right to explain it. But because we were living at the house, I did have to witness it, and it took a toll on us. Now, what I wanted to, explain next was, because of that, my wife was the one who had to take care of. She was basically an at-home caregiver at that point. She was doing a lot for her family, and it was tough to see her go through that. I couldn't be there for her because I was dealing with my own issues. She didn't deserve how I treated her. I'm sorry. The amount of guilt that I've felt from that reminds me of how much more effort I want to put into showing her how much I care for her, how much I love her. No matter how much we fight and we bicker, and I want my wife to know that I really do love her. Basically, we both our mental states really deteriorated. That the emotional toll it took on it it hit us mentally, not just emotionally, but mentally as well. I almost stopped caring because I couldn't stand watching and not being able to do anything. And the few family members that I've spoken to about already know it's I take that stuff very difficultly because I can see what the problem is and I know what can be done to fix it, but I can't do anything about it. Because I couldn't do anything about it, I kept looking for ways to make things happen. It's worse knowing that I had to watch someone dying from the inside out and I couldn't do anything about it. I wasn't allowed to because they gave up. That's what it really came down to. They gave up. And I didn't want them to give up because I love them. They're my family. Moving on from that, I don't want to be overly emotional about this. As I said, this is not meant to be a giant sob story. It's just supposed to be another aspect to the story to lead up to what has been today. From there, my wife and I did end up moving into our first apartment, and I was I was struggling to believe that it was worth trying to fight, considering the fact that we were that close. Unfortunately, it didn't go through. That was actually the next difficulty. We found a parcel of property, about 10 acres, and I was really excited to be able to finally have a piece of property that I can call my own that was bigger than I've ever had before. And we were gonna get a construction loan so that we could actually watch the house that we wanted to get built. So it would have been roughly about 4 to 5 months from what I was told, and if we would have been able to stay in the house by the end of this year, next month, we would have been in our first house. And it would have been completely set up for us. We would have had a well drilled, we would have had our own solar, or we would have had solar panels. I mean, yeah, granted, the house would have been expensive, but we would have had everything set up for us. Everything. The mortgage payment would have covered the cost of the electricity and the water and the garbage. Or, no, my bad, not garbage, sewer. Wow. But all these things would have been combined. I found out we had to wait 3 weeks after we signed that paper. We gave them our offer and we just told them this is what we want, and they were like, good, we can do this. 3 weeks later, I asked them every week, what's going on? What are we doing? Are we okay? What's happening? What's the progress? We'll get back to you next week. We'll get back to you next week. Finally, that third week came, and we were told that the loan was not going to go through because COVID caused some investors to back out. We had a guaranteed ability to pay, and they just decided, nope, not going to happen. So my wife and I were back to square one in our apartment. And let me just say that this apartment was the lowest expense that we could have found where we were at. We were paying a bit more than $1,000 a month, and I know that doesn't sound like much to some people, but to me, I don't like the idea of having to pay for something that, I kid you not, is basically just barely this bigger than this room that I'm in. This room basically was half of my apartment, and the amount that I was paying for that, and then having to pay for electricity, and then paying, oh my gosh, all of the things that I had to pay for really upset me. I mean, yeah, congratulations, that's life. That's part of it. That's what happens. That's growing up. That's adulthood. Being a grown-up means taking responsibility for your actions and paying for those commodities. Yes, electricity is a commodity. Running clean water is a commodity. And believe me when I say that was not clean water. I'm not saying that it was filthy water. I'm not saying that it was dirt or grime or raw sewage, but the filtering method that which they chose, I could taste the metal in it basically, and I can't stand that. We ended up getting ourselves a water filter anyhow, and survived on that for the time that we were there. But what occurred from there got us going was I was finally gonna start my YouTube channel, and it just sounds so stupid to me. Finally gonna start it? Why didn't you just start it? To be quite honest, confidence. Just like one of my favorite drill sergeants in basic training told me, I need to work on my confidence. I just personally don't see how I'm worth watching. That I know how that sounds, how weird that sounds. How is it that if I'm not confident myself, why should you guys have the confidence to watch me? I mean, what's the point of watching me if I wouldn't want to watch me? But that's just me talking down about myself. I struggle with a lot of negative emotions. After speaking with my mom about it, that's a lifetime struggle that I've been dealing with. I've always put myself down. That's actually going to be the last topic that I wanted to talk about. So tune in if you're still interested in watching. If you still want to see me act like this or express how these events affected me and my wife, and how I was with her. Thank you very much for being willing to stay with me. Basically, what the next thing that occurred when I started this, when I wanted to start this channel, I had no clue where I wanted to go. I had no clue what to do. I just knew that I loved the idea of filming. I love storytelling. It's been the one of the easiest aspects of my life, and I've always been able to intrigue people with storytelling if I'm really interested, if I'm really dedicated. Apparently, I've been informed from my family over the years that they can tell a difference in my tone whenever I'm excited versus I'm just explaining something that I have to. There's just this uplifting, childlike wonder and amazement to my face, apparently, whenever I'm interested in what I'm doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do to show that. I don't know what I have to offer, really. And then that's when it hit me. I like to entertain people. I want to see people smile. I want to make people laugh. Now, I'm not meaning I want to be can I stutter some more? No. Yes, I stutter. I end up stuttering quite a bit, especially when I get nervous. Or I've decided that I was just going to start filming something, and I love to play video games. It's difficult for me to play video games, but I love playing them regardless. They intrigue my mind to try different things. I've always had difficulty with trying to push myself to try new things if I wasn't certain what the outcome would be, unless I just didn't care at the time. It was just to heck with it, do it anyhow. And it's that bounce back between the two that I wanted to start this channel with by doing commentary while playing games. Not strictly like commentary as like just talking about random BS. I wanted people to be entertained by not only the game that I was playing, but potentially my reactions. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to be I don't want total attention on me. Even right now, I'm not trying to be, I don't want you paying attention to just me, see, because I don't want you to be solely focused on this. It's a personal affliction that I have with being seen, being noticed, because I've been ridiculed a lot. I'm used to bullying, believe it or not. I've I've been bullied for basically most of my life because I'm an easy target. I'm not gonna deny I am a very easy target of bullying. But that is because, as I found out just a few years ago, according to the scientific standard, I'm autistic. I have Asperger's syndrome, and it's not that's not something that I want to define me though. It's not something that it's going to dictate what everything that I say and do. Accepting the fact that that label has been put on me has been a struggle. I found out just 4 years ago that I should not be able to take care of myself. That's basically what the paper told me. I request documentation, and in a short matter of effect, I should not be able to take care of myself. But that is from years of struggling. I've always struggled with transitions. That was the defining feature. That was right there what told the doctors that I'm autistic, is that I struggle with transition. That's what confuses me though. I don't see it. I don't see how I struggle with transition. I struggle with thinking of what I can do for the long term. But while I'm thinking of the long, that's where the problem lies though. While I'm thinking of the long term, I'm stuck in the present, not doing anything. So basically, I'm stuck. I'm literally, what can I do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed what, can I what's going to happen? But in real life, I'm literally just staring, uncertain of what to do, thinking through things. I'm not there in the moment. I'm zoned out. And my wife has been working with me, which the fact that my wife loves me enough to not treat me as if I was autistic, treat me like a person, has been by far the best thing that I can admit has happened in a relationship. I'm struggling to cope with the fact that this label has effect, that it does currently affect me. I don't personally see myself as someone who is autistic. I see myself as someone who is learning how to manage my reactions as time goes on. I hopefully that makes sense. I take the time to really pay attention to what it is that I say and do, because the bullying that I've had in the past has been from my lack of paying attention to my actions. I didn't care if I was upset and someone saw my fist balled up, even if I was angry, but they see me shed a tear, call me a crybaby. I didn't want them to see that I didn't want them to believe that I was upset, so I acted like I was just angry. No, I was hurt. And I'm not afraid to admit that. Yeah, I was hurt. I was hurt that I was being picked on just because I didn't understand. I didn't want that the topic of this video. So there you go. I go on tangents quite a bit, but shortly after we ended up finding this land, and um, they we found out that they weren't going to go through with it, it hit me really hard. We had gone so far, we had gotten so much done, and then we were just told, oh, by the way, the loan's not going through. I felt like giving up. Granted, it was my first mortgage. It was my very first house. Why struggle so much and then get denied? I mean, granted, I can see how people have gone through worse situations, but at the time it didn't matter. In that specific moment, it really, really hurt, and I felt like giving up. It's been a recurring thing since I've been kicked out, that I've felt like giving up. Or from being kicked out at that exact moment, that was an accumulation of events that led to all of that, and then right then, my next quarter of college started. So I just started spring quarter, and let me tell you right now that it was definitely a doozy for me. Oh, there you go, folks. I had to stop the recording, and I apologize if you hear that noise. That is my dog. He is biting his chew toy right now, and I really appreciate that he's being quiet for the most part outside of chewing on his chew toy. Do you want to say hi, Salem? In fact, actually, I'm going to see if I can actually do this real quick. Hi, little man. Yeah. So here is my puppy. He is the reason why I had to pause the video. I had to bring him inside. But he is actually doing fairly good since we have gotten him. He is just because he pees. Yes, he was having trouble with the peeing without hesitation. He's learned because we like to get on his butt, but yes, there he is. He is a really good dog. He's also fun fact, Salem is also my very first male dog that I have kept for longer than a few months. I've been able to raise him for the most part. He's been a very good dog and he's become very loyal, and I'm really appreciative of that. Can I sit down again, Salem? You're in my seat. As previously mentioned, I, my wife and I got kicked out, and that was just like literally the week before that we put in our, for our loan, or for a mortgage. And then it wasn't, and then it's 3 weeks later we found out that the loan got denied thanks to COVID. That's literally what we were told. COVID literally killed our loan. It's stupid, but it's what happened. Because that's what sucks. We got our loan turned in before COVID started. But it took them 3 weeks to tell us that it didn't go through. If they had done it when they said they would, my wife and I would be in an apartment right now, traveling down to see our house get constructed, and we would be moving in next month. December 2020, we would be in a brand spanking new house. And just like I was suggesting, yes, it would have been expensive, it would have been difficult, but the fact remains is, nothing would have come out of my pocket other than for mortgage. We would have had solar connection, we would have had sewer connected, we would have had water, our own well. Granted, yes, all those things can go bad, whatever, but the fact remains is, none of what I was going to be paying in monthly expenses was going to be anything other than mortgage. Everything was going to be covered. So yes, it pissed me off royally that I am paying for a damn apartment that is just barely double the size of the room that I'm in right now, and I'm paying, as much as I hate to say this, I am now paying for this house about $15 more than what I paid for that apartment each month. Might I add, this house is 4 times the size of that apartment. My house is 84 square feet shorter than 4 times the size of my apartment was. And I'm paying $15 more for this house than I was paying for that apartment. That's why I was so pissed off about being in that apartment. 2 things that occurred after that spring. I did start recording and getting used to being on camera again. I did graduate. That summer, I graduated. I got my first degree. I'm grateful that I got it, but I'm not particularly happy with the degree that I got, just because it was supposed to be something quick because I have the credits. I never saw myself going for college. I didn't want to do college to begin with. It was something that the military had told, or the people within the military had, my leadership had informed me that would look good on my record. So I just kind of pursued it without any goal or direction to go for. It was just going to go. So I accumulated a number of credits over the course of 3 years in service. 3 out of the 4 years that I spent in service. My dog is going to be annoying. But, no. Thank you, Salem. I ended up getting my degree, and I wasn't happy with it. I was actually dissatisfied. I tried to show my gratitude with it by presenting it to my family like, hey, I actually did get something. I achieved it. I earned my degree. Though I was dissatisfied with my degree, I was at least pleased that I did achieve something that summer, or this last summer, even though it was not my highest priority at the time. It's a good thing that I got my degree finally, one of them, but it's not the one that I wanted, and I didn't work for it. I did not work for my degree. It was a BS degree. No joke whatsoever. My degree is an associate's in arts with an undetermined degree set bachelor. It's the official term. The official is AADTA, and the DTA is direct transfer agreement. So basically, the last few classes that I had to get my degree, I was appreciative of because they actually challenged me. The mass majority of that degree, and I'm when I say mass majority, I'm talking over 3/4 of my degree, is basic high school level classes. I had to graduate high school to get into the service. So why on earth am I retaking 3/4 of the degree past college and get a degree from college? It didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't. Now that I think about it, it really doesn't make sense. I'm grateful that I have a degree because it's challenging me to pursue something different, but initially it was just because I have more credits than I need. So basically what happened this summer is I decided to pay out of pocket for one particular class because I was struggling. I took Calculus 3. From there, basically what occurred was over the course of the summer, I was recording more. I was starting to learn how to enjoy myself, really pushing myself to get outside of my comfort zone and realize that I can't just lay in bed be depressed all the time. It was something to do, and it was starting to work. It really was. The struggle was there that I was still living in an apartment that I did not feel safe in. That was this was a really defining issue for me. I did not feel comfortable falling asleep, let alone getting up. I was so low in my life living in this apartment. I'm grateful that they gave me the apartment as quickly as they did. Like I said before, the next alternative from this apartment to go one step higher, and I literally mean like an apartment that is 1.5 times the size of the one that I was living in, was over $2,000 a month, not to include utilities. I was very upset with that. So I'm living in a crappy part of town, right next to base mod I had. So this is the irony to it. I was right next to base, and it also happened to be one of the most dangerous parts of town. So yes, unfortunately, I'm not going to explain exactly where I was because I'm not going to dox myself. But where I was living, I had to relive some of the moments that I had overseas. Primarily because I had, out of the number of times that I was in harm's way overseas, I never expected to have a gun in my face while I was stateside. That was a struggle. In fact, that stopped me from sleeping altogether. There were literally weeks that went by where I did not sleep. I couldn't sleep. I didn't know if from one moment to the next if one of my neighbors was going to commit abuse or start doing some sort of illicit activity. There's no smoking on premises, and they didn't give a shit about the rules and the fact that we're not allowed to smoke on premises. And they were sitting right outside their fucking right over the balcony of the apartment with a fucking heroin right there, right in front of everyone to see. I saw more cops in my lifetime, yes, in my lifetime, at this apartment in 1 month. It was horrendous, and it scared the ever living daylights out of me. I did not feel comfortable where I was. I didn't feel comfortable doing anything. I barely felt comfortable just living. But that's all of this is besides the point, because obviously I'm in a much better situation now. What just what got what uh, this this apartment living defined a moment in my life, though, to make me realize that no matter how hard it becomes, you can still survive. I ended up going back to therapy because of this apartment. I had gone so low, I actually got convinced by my wife to go talk to a therapist again because nothing was working. The reason why I'm struggling so hard is because I do battle depression, and one of the things that was occurring was I was contemplating suicide again regularly. Whenever even though I chronically have ideation, and yes, I know that's horrible to say, but that's a struggle that someone that has seen war apparently goes through. I've been informed of that, so I know it's a fact, but I battle it regardless. I do struggle with ideation, or recurring ideation. I'm not saying I want to commit suicide. I'm saying regularly the thought occurs in my head to make me believe that it is no longer worth being alive. And I question whether or not I should be alive. Not whether or not I want to be alive, whether or not I should be alive. And because of that, I admitted that to my wife, and she told me to talk to a therapist, so I started to. I do struggle with recurring ideation, but that is because I've dealt with some situations overseas that have changed my mentality and make me question whether or not can personally believe that I deserve to live. Regardless of all that, I'm just trying to explain the ups and downs of what 2020 has done for me so far, and my desire to keep persisting no matter what. I can't stop. Well, after I graduated and I started going through my summer course, my realtor started getting on my or asking me again if I really wanted a house, and we did want a house, obviously. So we started house hunting again, and I found out really quick because of COVID, houses were getting taken up left and right, left and right. It was so stupid. I kid you not. My wife and I went to view a house, loved it, were ready to sign right there, told our realtor, drove away, and our realtor told us on the drive back, less than 5 minutes after we had left that house, that our offer had a counter offer. The house was, I want to say, 300,000. We put an offer for 300,000. Somebody put an offer in for $355,000. I was so upset. I mean, and so my exact thoughts, and I told all my realtor, my wife, everybody at that exact moment that dealt with that situation, if you're willing to pay cash out of pocket that amount for that house, be my guest. I am not gonna fight you if you want to waste your money like that. I'm not saying that it's a complete waste of money. I'm saying that it was a waste of uh, total money, considering the fact that they only asked for 300. Or no, they only asked for 325, but realistically, we could have drawn it down to 300, and that's what I did. After speaking with my realtor, she said 300 would have been a reasonable offer, so that's exactly what we offered, 300, but with the high potential that we would have worked towards 325. So yes, I was going to pay 325 on the high likeliness, but we started out with 300. It was a quick lowball, but of course I'm doing VA, so none of it's out of pocket, whatever. But the fact is that they just straight up spat out 55,000 extra dollars cash. Hey, if you got Mr. Beast money, go for it.
Don't care. Now I just have to be able to come up with another place. Might I add, this house was also basically perfect for what we were looking for. Remote property that I wanted. It was on 5 acres, so it had some land. It was on a beautiful house. It was a massive house, bigger than any house that I've ever personally been. Hi, Salem. Yes, hi. Yes, you really want attention, don't you? So much so that you're getting up in the camera just to lick my face. Say hi, Salem. As he backs out. We were on the hunt again, and we started searching for houses, and the house that we're in right now, it wasn't our preferred house, but it was, I guess you could say, the lesser of all evils. We ended up getting this house or we ended up choosing this house finally, and it took us a good solid, I think, month to finally close on this house. But I mean, they did not realize just how motivated I was to get this place when we finally decided on it. I did not care. I wanted it done. So they basically kept saying, "We'll do it. We'll take care of it." And I kept saying, "Nope. Tell me who I need to talk to. I will call them." "Well, you don't have to tell me what the number is. I will call them." "Well, we can just tell me what the number is. I will call them." They finally listened, and basically push came to shove, and I got something that would close within usually 3 to 4 months in 1 month. I I did not want to wait for a house anymore, especially living in that apartment. It was very difficult. But finally that occurred. So we got the house in August. But now here's the irony to it. I was so desperate to move out of that apartment that we signed for that house. I didn't move into this house until September. We had gotten the house and just moved in, and to cope my idiocracy to cope, and because I had done a bunch of I had started going over my degree and what I was going for. I had just been accepted for a bachelor's in mathematics, or a bachelor's in something, and the best degree that I could go for what I was interested in, what they had available for what I was going for, was mathematics. So I am now pursuing a bachelor's in mathematics. Yeah, it doesn't sound all that fancy or significant, but you'd be surprised to find out that being a mathematician actually has several job openings. So yes, I am now in pursuit of a bachelor's of mathematics, and I'm not entirely happy with it, particularly as I'm accepting of it as what it gives me. Mostly because I had no desire or intention of pursuing any specialized degree after the associates in arts. But I'm happy that I have something to go for. That's actually why I'm keeping it, is because it's something to propel me forward, to keep me interested in what I could be doing. So I'm going for it. It's worth it. Now for my idiocracy. I decided, as for some odd reason, this quarter, I decided to. Alright, so this is how stupid I am. I went from taking 3 classes per quarter, and then this summer I took 1 class. For some odd reason, I thought, hey, why not? Let's try 4 classes. I had just moved into this house, and I decided, let's take on 4 classes. Oh, might I add, my internet decided to falter up until the night prior classes started. So my anxiety was through the roof. I had no clue if I'm about to waste so much time, energy, effort, and money. It was horrible. This last quarter has been really difficult. I actually do not know currently. I haven't finished my classes. My finals are next week. But as of right now, I do not know if I'm going to be passing this quarter. And that hurts because if I don't pass 2 of the classes I'm in right now, my degree gets set back by an entire year. So I only have 2 years left on my GI Bill, fiscal school years, if I don't count the summer quarter. But whatever, I technically only have 2 years left on my GI Bill, and I'm gonna have to dip into uh, the voc rehab if I can't finish, or I pay out of pocket or scholarships or something. Basically, I'm going to have to look for alternatives due to my own stupidity of not taking care better of myself and staying consistent with my class. But this is a lesson learned. Don't take 4 classes. I've learned a lot this quarter, and I'm really happy that I was capable of continuing on. I didn't quit. I didn't drop. I didn't stop. I probably should have, but realistically speaking, I've learned more this quarter than I have this entire year. I now realize just how difficult it is to actually, well, be on my own 2 feet for once. But that is where I'm actually going to admit the greatest hurdle of this year so far. I may not be certain if I'm going to pass and get on to the next few classes next quarter, but I'm about to embark on one of the biggest journeys I have ever been on. Veterans Day this year, I found out I'm going to be a dad. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be a good dad. Now, I know that sounds probably cliche, or pretty much every other dad has probably thought about that. But let me break it down in relatively quickly and easily enough for most people to understand. I was raised in a single parent household. I don't know what it's like to have a father figure to show me the ropes. I went to church and I met some parents that, or some families that had dads. I've One of my best friends had a single parent who was a dad. I have I'm not saying I didn't have parental figures in my life that were male, but it's different when you're when the only person that you've lived with for your entire life is just your mom. It brings up a lot of doubt and a lot of concern as to whether or not I'm going to be an effective parent. I don't know if I'm going to be a good dad. I have so much against me. I don't know, and it scares me. So I hope when you see this, just know no matter what, I'm not going to give up on you. I love my I love my child with all my heart. And I want them to know that. And I will always love my child. I didn't want this to get to this point. My dad abandoned me when I was 2, which has caused me to make me feel like I'm uncertain if I'm worthy of love. And I don't want my child to feel the same. But I can't give up. And yes, it's scary. In fact, it's downright terrifying. But I couldn't be more grateful to know that I actually did conceive. It's really pleasing to know that I'm moving forward in life. And I'm nervous. Yeah, I am. I'm nervous as all Sam Haven, but I'm scared, excited, but most importantly, I want to prove to my child that I'm not going to give up. That I'm going to be able to keep pursuing my dreams so I don't show them that I'm likely to just give up. So yes, I still want to pursue YouTube, not as a career, but as something to do that will have benefit for me that I can enjoy. Not and by doing so that there's even a chance that hey, maybe it might actually become something. So if you were willing to stick with me this far, thank you. At the end of it all, if you'd like to see more, or if you want to keep up with any more updates, please hit that subscribe button. Um, it would mean a lot to me to know that somebody actually does like this video. So if you could hit the like button, possibly get that YouTube algorithm to show the world that there's another another uncertain parent, soon to be parent out there who is wanting to do right by their child and by themselves. So I'm doing this for myself, my family, and you know what? For you guys, the audience, for whoever wants to watch this, I'm doing this all because I want to put a smile on people's faces. Not just tears from my blubbering like a baby, but hopefully you guys can enjoy this. But this is Jack Slate 999 signing out, and I will see you hopefully next time.